Hi everyone, this is your video for 2.1 homework help. For questions 1 and 3, find the distance between the two numbers on a number line, and I'd encourage you to at least draw the number line, but you don't have to solve it with a number line strategy. Negative 4.3 is going to be to the left of 0. 0.8 is going to be to the right of 0. By visualizing this, we can now see that we have a distance here, an absolute value, and an absolute value there. So we're going to be finding the sum of the absolute values, 4.3 and 0.8. When we add those together, we get a total distance of 5.1. For number 3, once we draw negative 2 and 3/5 and negative 1, we can see that both of those values are actually to the left of 0. So now we're not going to be adding the absolute values. Now we're going to be subtracting the absolute values. So we're going to have 2 and 3/5 minus 1 whole, which is going to be 1 and 3/5. For numbers 9 and 11, use a number line or integer counters to find the product. 2 stands for groups, and negative 4 is how many integer counters or how many times we'll jump. Okay, so if we do integer counters, we have 2 groups, and each group has 4 negatives. So that would be negative 8. If we did a number line strategy, we would have 2 jumps of negative 4. So we'd start at 0 and we would jump negative 4, and then another negative 4 to get to negative 8. If we do integer counters for 11, we'd have 4 groups of negative 5. And if you count all those up, you'd have 20 negatives. If we did the number line, we would start at 0, and we would make 4 jumps of negative 5. And we'd end up at here negative 5, negative 10, negative 15, and negative 20. Multiply integers and find the product, and you can use the integer rules now. You do not need to use number line or integer method. We see that we have 7 times negative 3. A positive times a negative is a negative. The signs are different, so our answer will always be negative, and 7 times 3 is 21. For number 15, the signs are the same, so it'll be positive, and 3 times 4 is 12. Negative 6 times 7, the signs are different, so our product will be negative, and 6 times 7 is 42. Negative 1 times negative 12, the signs are different. A negative times a negative is a positive, and 1 times 12 is 12. Negative 13 times 0, anything times 0 is 0, so that's not positive or negative. And a negative times a positive, the signs are different. It's a negative, and 9 times 9 is 81, so negative 81. You burn 10 calories each minute you jog. What integer represents the change in your calories after you jog for 20 minutes? So let's say 1 minute is equal to 10 calories burned. 2 minutes would be 20 calories. 3 minutes would be 30 calories. You could continue this table all the way from 1 minute down to 20, or you can see that there's a couple key points. 2 minutes is 20 calories, so you could multiply 2 minutes times 10 and get 20 minutes, and then multiply this side by 10 as well. 20 calories times 10 is 200, and you'd find that 20 minutes would net you 200 calories. Another option you may have seen is from 5 to 20. That would be multiplied by 4. So 50 times 4 would also get you 200. You could have also done the same with 4 and 40 calories. But ultimately, what integer represents the change in your calories? That would be 200 for a 20-minute jog. And because they are calories you're burning, these would all be negative calories. Two integers, a and b, have a product of 24. What's the least possible sum? So let's just think, probably first thing that comes to mind might be 4 times 6 is 24. Okay, so then 4 plus 6 is 10. So we have to think of what other factors there are that could give us a product of 24. We could have 2 times 12, that's 24. And when we add 2 and 12, we get 14. But it says what is the least possible sum, so we're actually going the wrong way. So what I want you to think about is that an integer are both the positive and negative whole numbers on a number line. So we want to start thinking about the negatives then, and we need to think that a negative times a negative equals a positive. So let's try negative 4 times negative 6. That's still going to be positive 24, but now when we add negative 4 and negative 6 together, we get negative 10. So let's keep trying other options for factor pairs. If we do negative 2 times negative 12, we get positive 24 because a negative times a negative is positive. If we do negative 2 plus negative 12, now we actually have negative 14. There's one other option that oftentimes we overlook. It's negative 1 times negative 24. That's going to give us a product of 24, but now see when we add negative 1 and negative 24, we're going to end up with negative 25. So in this situation, the smallest sum that we could get for a and b is negative 25. Evaluate the expression. So what that means for number 30, we are going to take the base of negative 4 and we're just going to multiply it by itself. So negative 4 times negative 4. The signs are the same. A negative times a negative is a positive, and 4 times 4 is 16. For number 2, this is one of the tricky ones. The negative 6 squared actually is the opposite of 6 squared. So we just want to do 6 squared, which is 6 times itself twice. That's 36. And then we're going to take the opposite of that, which is negative 36. For number 32, negative 5 times 3, we'll just take this in steps. Negative 5 times 3 is going to be negative 15. And then negative 15 times negative 2, a negative times a negative is a positive, and 15 times 2 is 30. Let's start 34 by multiplying the negative times the negative. That's going to be a positive, and 5 times 7 is 35. We're going to multiply that times negative 20. A positive times a negative, the signs are different, so that's going to be a negative. And then 35 times 20 is 700. And if you didn't know that mentally, you would have had to multiply 35 times 20. 2 times 5 is 10, carry the 1. 2 times 3 is 6, plus another one is 7. And that's how you'd get the 700. And we knew that the signs were different, so our product here was negative. Continuing to evaluate the expressions, this is going to be the opposite of 5 squared. So 5 squared is going to be 5 times 5, which is 25. And then we're going to take the opposite of that. So negative 25 times 4. A negative times a positive is going to be a negative. And 25 times 4 is 100. So negative 100. For number 38, we have to do parentheses first, following order of operations. So -7 plus 5, that's -2. So I'll rewrite everything else. Now I need to multiply. 1 times -2 is -2. And 2 plus -2 is 0. For number 40, we'll do parentheses first, and inside the parentheses, we have an exponent. 3 times 3 is 9. So now we have 25 times 9 inside our parentheses. 25 times 9 is 225. And then we would do 225 times 4 is 900. And for number 41, we'll start in the parentheses as well. 3 squared is 3 times 3. So that's 9. Minus 8 plus 1, and we have -4 out front. What's in parentheses will still happen next. 9 minus 8 is 1. And here's a spot where you may have made a mistake. You can't cancel out the 1 and the plus 1 or add the 1s first. You have to do PEMDAS. So we have to multiply. -4 times 1 is -4. -4 plus 1 is -3. In a scavenger hunt, each team earns 25 points for each item that they find, and each team loses 15 points for every minute after 4 o'clock that they report to the city park. The table shows the number of items found by each team and the time that each team reported to the park. Which team wins the scavenger hunt? All right, so first of all, what do we know? Each team earns 25 points for each item they find. So Team A found 13 items times 25 points. Team B had 15 items times 25 points. Team C had 11 items times 25 points. And Team D had 12 items times 25 points. Next, it says each team loses, so that means we're going to have to take away. They lose 15 points for every minute after 4 o'clock that they report. So they lose 15 minutes times every minute they are late. And Team A looks like they were 3 minutes late. Team B was 7 minutes late. Team C, they were 0 minutes late. Okay, so they didn't lose anything, and there's no benefit for reporting early. And Team D, they were 1 minute late. So now we just have to solve these. 13 times 25 is 325, and 15 times 3 is 45, so 325 minus 45 is 280. For B, we'll go 15 times 25, that's 375, minus 15 times 7, because they were 7 minutes late, so that's a 105-minute penalty. So 375 minus 105 is 270. Team C, they earned 11 points, or 11 items times 25 points, so that's 275. They had no penalties, so they have just 275. And Team D had 12 items times 25 bonus points for a total of 300, minus 15 for being late. So they had 285. So it says the table shows the number of items and the time. Which team wins the scavenger hunt? Team D wins the scavenger hunt with a grand total of 285 points. For number 48, it says the table shows the price of a Bluetooth speaker each month for 4 months. Describe the change in the price of the speaker. There's one important thing here that we notice right away. July has the original price minus 12. August has the original price plus 2 times negative 12. And September has the original price plus 3 times negative 12. What we should notice is that June is the starting point, so that would be month 0. July would be 1 month, August would be 2 months later, and September would be 3 months later. Hence, the numbers 3, 2, and ultimately the number 1 could go right there. So we can say that the change in the price of the speaker is going to be negative $12 per month. Portion B says the table at the right shows the amount of money you save each month. When do you have enough money saved to buy the speaker? So we're going to be looking at table 1 and table 2. I'm going to add a little bit to table 2. I'm going to add a column for how much money, and I'm going to add a table for cost. So after June, you've got $35 because that's how much you saved. You just started saving, but the cost of the speaker is $165. You obviously do not have enough. Now, in July, 1 month later, the cost of the speaker is going to drop by $12, putting it at $153. You saved additional money. You have 55 from July plus 35 from June, and 55 plus 35 more is 90. But you still obviously don't have enough. So let's look at August. The price was $153 for the speaker. It drops by $12 more. So now that puts the price of the speaker at $141. You've now saved $90 plus an additional $45. So 90 plus 45. You've got $135. So you still do not quite have enough. So it must be September, because in September we have $141 minus another $12 drop for the speaker, so that puts the speaker at $129. You had $135, so you already have enough, plus the 18 more. You have $153 total, and the speaker only costs $129, so you can't buy that speaker until September.